What I want to do in this video is talk about my experience using SRAM AXS electronic shifting for the first time, both on a mountain bike and also a gravel bike. Now, I'm not new to electronic shifting. I've had Shimano electronic shifting on a few cyclocross bikes, but this is my first time using SRAM AXS. Now, unless you're new to cycling and don't know much about it, SRAM AXS is exploding, both road and mountain, and people that I talk to that use it really, really like it, but I have some varying opinions about it, and that's what I want to share in this video. What sets SRAM AXS apart from Shimano currently is the fact that it's totally wireless. And personally, for me, that is hands down the biggest advantage of SRAM AXS. As someone who has built up countless bikes, to not have to run wires through a frame to set up the bike is golden. With Shimano, you've got the battery inside the seat tube. You've got to run wires to the battery, wires from the shifter to the derailleur. One day Shimano is going to go totally wireless, but today, when I'm recording this video, they haven't. And so I love that about SRAM AXS. I also love the fact of how easy it is to take the battery off the rear derailleur and replace it with another one. So you literally could have a battery in your hydration pack or in your jersey and just ride the thing until the battery gives out. Now, fortunately, with the app on the phone, you can check the battery in the shifter. So the shifter takes, I think it's like one of those little watch batteries. I haven't replaced it. Or, you know, you can check that battery and you can check the battery of the rear derailleur. So that's really cool. Another good thing that I'll just mention about the phone app is you can change which lever, which shifter does what. You can just kind of change how it works. I've used it just set up the way it is, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So going back to how easy it is to get the battery off, that is really nice about SRAM AXS. Now, starting off, I did not have a great experience because I got this mountain bike in as a demo and I could not charge the battery. I thought it was the battery. I thought the battery failed because I got a friend's battery and it worked fine in the charger that I had. It ended up being the charger, because the charger would charge a battery that had a partial charge, but it wouldn't charge a battery that was completely drained, and the battery that came on the bike was completely drained, and I just could not charge it. So that is obviously one of the disadvantages of SRAM AXS, is the fact that you can have a battery failure. I had a battery failure with Shimano. I was heading out on a ride and the battery just wouldn't charge up, and the ride was over. It was an event and I only had one battery, so that put a really bad taste in my mouth. With SRAM AXS, you could have a battery failure. You could head out on a ride or travel somewhere and not have a battery work. Now, the beauty of it is you can have multiple batteries and change them out like super quick. So that is great about SRAM AXS. And if I were going to have SRAM AXS on my personal bike, I would have at least 2 batteries. Now, I will say that the batteries do last a long time. Like, I think I've charged this battery once over the last 2 or 3 months. And I ride the bike a few times a week. So the batteries do last a long time, but you can have a battery failure. Now, along those lines, this hasn't happened to me, but I've talked to other people that have gone on a long trip and the bike was on a rack, and the motion of the car bouncing on the road activated the system, turned on the battery, and by the time they got to the race or an event, it was a long drive, obviously, the battery was dead. So if you're going to put the bike on a car, you'll need to take the battery off the rear derailleur if it's a long drive, because you could drain the battery. So that's another disadvantage. But going back to what I said, you want to have at least 2 batteries, maybe 3, if you're going on a trip or going to a bike race. Now let me talk about the actual shifting of SRAM AXS, and I'll start with a mountain bike. So when I first started using it, I had a lot of misshifts because I have been using mechanical for so long that I can shift it in my sleep. I know exactly where my thumb needs to be for an upshift, exactly where it needs to be for a downshift. But once I got used to it, it's fine. Now I have the kind of lever where I think bumping it up as an upshift and pushing it down as a downshift worked fine, got used to it. Now SRAM does make a different style of AXS lever for mountain bikes that I have not tried. Perhaps I would find that even more intuitive, but like I said, I got used to it, no big deal. That being said, for mountain bikes, I don't mind mechanical at all. The only disadvantage to me to mechanical, well, two disadvantages. One is obviously you got to run cables through, you got to set it up, but I've done that so much that again, it's one of those things I can do in my sleep. It's no big deal. The other disadvantage of mechanical is the fact that you can have some cable stretch for a new cable, but really all you do is, if you get some delay in downshifting, shifting to a bigger cog in the back, all you have to do is back out the barrel adjuster half a turn, you're good to go. With electronic, you don't have to do that. I have 3 mountain bikes currently in my own personal fleet, and then a couple demo bikes. If I were going to use electronic shifting, I would want electronic on all of my mountain bikes, because I want my thumb to be in the exact same position when I'm shifting, because I race, or maybe even a fast group ride or whatever. You just don't have any misshifts, and I got so used to my mechanical that switching back and forth, I would have some misshifts. So personally, again, if I were going to have mechanical, or if I were going to have electronic on a mountain bike, I would want to have it on all of them. Which brings me to the other disadvantage of SRAM AXS, is the cost, right? It is quite a bit more expensive than mechanical. And so that's a consideration. If I just had one mountain bike, I'd probably go with electronic. For me, this is just my opinion, I like mechanical for mountain biking because I have multiple mountain bikes. I don't have to worry about the battery. I don't have to worry. Once you get mechanical set up, you're pretty much done. Like you don't even have to think about it, except for changing the cable out maybe once a year. And you probably don't have to do that. I do it once a year just because I like doing scheduled maintenance on a bike. I don't want to have a failure on a ride. But that mechanical, you set it up, you're good to go. With this, you do have to think about the battery. Now the phone app does make it nice. You can check the battery, but you do have to think about the battery, and you don't have to do that with mechanical. Now let me talk about the gravel bike, because I actually had a better shifting experience with the gravel bike. I have it set up so that the right lever is upshift, so smaller cog, and the left lever is downshift, bigger cog, easier gear. That was great. Like, that was so intuitive for me. And just like the mountain bike, it just takes a little tap of the lever to shift, and I really like that. I got used to it almost instantly, and I don't think I had hardly any misshifts, maybe 1 or 2, but a lot less than a mountain bike. Now, a little side note here is I also really liked the one-by system that's on this Barria gravel bike that's in my possession as a demo. Normally, I like having a front derailleur with 2 front chain rings because you get a less jump in the rear cassette, but I did really like the one-by because it goes back to the shifter. Right lever is upshift, left lever is downshift all day long. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about, shifting into the big chain ring if you're kind of in that gear range where you're moving up the cassette and you've got to, shift so you're not cross-chaining. With this, you're just, one lever does one thing, one does the other. And it was really nice experience. One downside that I did notice with the road bike, the gravel bike, is the fact that you do have to use one hand for one for the other. And if I was holding a water bottle in my hand, or maybe eating a bar, and I was on a group ride, I normally hold something in my left hand so that I have access to the rear brake in case I have to suddenly brake, and I can also shift with the right hand. When I had something in my left hand and I wanted to downshift, I would have to switch hands. And if you're on a fast group ride going up a hill, that's not as easy to do. And so it's minor, but that is a little bit of a disadvantage, just the fact that you cannot shift both directions with one hand. Just wanted to throw that in there. So I'll wrap this up by saying that the biggest advantage, as I mentioned, is no wires and being able to change out the battery really easily. I like that. That being said, I'm fairly neutral on electronic. I like mechanical. I've been using it for so long. It works so well today that I wouldn't miss electronic if all of my bikes were mechanical. That's just my opinion. That's just me. I have people that swear by electronic shifting. I'm a minimalist. I don't like having to worry about a battery. The shifting on mechanical is just fine for me. The road bike, I probably, on my personal bike, because I only have one gravel bike in my fleet, that's it, I would probably go with electronic. For mountain biking, I would probably just stick with mechanical and be a happy camper. So let me know in the comments below. I know this will stir up a bunch of comments because like I said, there's people who really swear by electronic shifting. They love it. But let me know, Do you use a mountain bike? Do you use a road bike? Do you use both? What are your experiences? Do you share some of the same thoughts that I have? Electronic, mechanical? Would love to hear your opinion. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so. And if you are a subscriber, head on over to my website, everyday-explorer.com, and you can pick up channel merchandise, which today is just a t-shirt and a hat, but I will grow that as time goes on. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.